biggest question that comes up, am I at risk? And my question and my answer to most people is that if you are from South Asia or any countries of the Indian subcontinent, then you are at risk. Don't think that, you know, your aging parents are at risk, or your uncle is at risk, or your husband is at risk. You being a South Asian, you are at risk. And it's got to start there. You saw that slide that Dr. Molina put up in terms of PMR or mortality ratio in Indians versus other Asians. And you could see that, you know, we are twice as much or likely to die of heart attacks compared to the others, just in the Asian component ethnicities. The second learning has been that, you know, the traditional risk factor screening, you know, when we go for our physical and we go to the doctor and the doctor says, you know, your cholesterol is fine, you're good with it. That is simply not where it needs to end. And, you know, Dr. Molina talked about the fact that you now have such a great tool to look at, to see where you stand on your coronary calcification. I would encourage all of you, if you are over the age of 40 as a man and 45 as a woman, to just go to your doctor and get this test done. And if they will not do it, we will help you within our program to getting it done. And the third thing, and Dr. Munila alluded to it, is that if everything was the same, the one thing that is really telling about your risk is your BMI. It says more about you than just your looks. And the other thing with it is that a low BMI within South Asians doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have the risk. So watch it really carefully. And even if you kind of get there, you still have to kind of continue working on lifestyle to keep your risk low. The next thing that comes up is, what do I do if I find out, you know, I'm at risk? And what we have found is that one size indeed fits all, almost. So our MEDS platform is such an encompassing platform that it works for everybody. But what changes from person to person to person is the personalization that is done with working with a coach, because everybody needs that personalization. And the question really is, you know, when you ask, a lot of people ask our dietitians, is this good for me? Is ghee good for me? You know, is brown rice good for me? Is quinoa good for me? The question really needs to be, looking at my profile, is it okay for me to have this or not have this? And that's the personalization that we are talking about. The second thing is that, you know, there is a new paradigm, new meaning it's been about 2 or 3 years old. And many of you might already know it, and it's called the plate method. It was introduced by the USDA to switch from the food pyramid. The food pyramid, you know, was a license for people to pile up their plates. And that kind of really didn't do the trick. So look it up if you don't already know what that is. And Lata actually talked about, you know, the proportion of the food. So everything goes. You can eat everything, but look at how the plate method allows you to decorate your plate, and it is a game changer. 4 times is the magic. We did a study to look at individuals who came through the program and found out that individuals who actually connected with a coach 4 or more times made much more of a significant lifestyle change compared to people who didn't. And it was interesting that initially people would be really scared of the coach. And when the coach would call, they would actually know that the coach is calling from the South Asian Art Center. They would not take the call, but instead they would go for a walk. So it had the, you know, the right, you know, intent or the intention with it. And when they continued and started building the rapport with the coach, they would not leave the coach alone. That's what made the big change. And then finally, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We won't ask you to actually, train to be a marathon runner. But lifestyle is not about turning overnight. We have so many engineers who come to us and we tell them that we need 150 minutes of exercise in the week. And they all want to complete that 150 minutes of exercise the very next day. And in the end, we find a lot of injured engineers. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon. That's why we have the program be a 1-year-long program so that we can easily start incorporating the changes that will help reduce risk and enhance wellness. And then finally, we hear from so many participants, oh, I know this and I know that. And yes, that's true. Of course, you've read everywhere. And, Dr. Ram had indicated that, through many of these education and awareness programs, you get to know what are the recommendations. But when it gets down to actually doing it yourself, that's when it becomes hard. So you have the knowledge and it's powerful, but it's powerless until you put it into action. And Lata said a beautiful thing that I want to bring up at this point is that planning is everything. And Dr. Molina keeps hitting my head with it, saying, the only way that you can get this done is if you can plan. The next thing is that life happens all the time. A lot of our participants says, you know what, I'm going to lose a few more pounds and then come for the blood test. And it never happens, because from the time they tell us that to the time that they actually, realize they have not done their blood test is because life has happened in the middle. Life happens because you fall sick, your kids fall sick, you've got to travel, you've got other things that are going on, your parents need your help, you have to kind of attend a wedding, you have to do all of these sorts of things. Life is happening constantly. So it's never a good time to, implement lifestyle. You always kind of delay it, and you want to kind of do it tomorrow. So because life is going to happen, you need to really start now. And then finally, it's not the barrier that we see, it's the barrier that we don't. For most people, the single biggest barrier to everything is time. But the question that I want to ask everyone is that if you look at your life today, are you not able to do the things that you love to do and you find time for them? If you love music, you find time to listen to music or play music. If you love, to play with your kids, you will spend time doing that. You find the time to do that. It's just that we don't prioritize lifestyle in the same way, otherwise we would find time for it. And our coach's role is really mostly to find time in your life for the things that are important to have this wellness work.